What is up, folks? This is Jason Hopkins coming at you with the I Am Jason Hopkins podcast. Super excited to dive into step 3, the decision. And briefly, let's go over 1 and 2. 1 was horrible audio, but that's okay. We admitted that we are powerless and our lives became unmanageable. We came to believe in a power greater than us. That's step 2. And I don't want you to get distracted by the word God and power and that. Find a family member that has passed. Find someone that you've loved has passed and let that be your God. Let that be your power. And I can't stress that enough because this is usually what turns people off when it comes to the 12 steps, NA or AA. People want to basically just have a reason not to do it. But we finally came to the point where we make a decision. But before we get to that, I want you to let you know that this show is brought to you by Purina and Red Rover. They partnered, I think in 2019, to help launch the Purple Leash project. And what that is to help survivors and pets find safety. And statistically, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men are exposed to domestic violence in their lifetime. And only 15% of domestic violence shelters accept pets. Now here's the shitty part. You ready for this? 71% of women in domestic violence shelters report that their abuser has threatened, injured, or killed a pet as a means for control. That makes me mad. And also 50% stay in that relationships because they don't want to leave their pets behind. Their goal going forward for 2023 is to have 25% of domestic violence shelters become pet friendly. And like I said before, it was 15%. So if we spread the word, we spread this message, and we try to work that out. I'm a huge animal person. Like, please stress this out. No Laces movement is not just for addiction. It's for all of the need to find to take your inner power back. And that is exactly why I have opened this up, because at one point I had no power. I had nothing. I was broken. And if it's just me and my trauma and my PTSD, then there's others out there in this world that have those. And I couldn't even imagine when it comes with a pet and that thought. So when I heard the Purple Leash Project, this is what this episode is sponsored by. So back to step 3. We can't stop starting. An addiction is basically always with us forever, for the rest of our life. We can't just come out of rehab, have so many days clean, and then it's just gone. It's always with us. And in a way, we have lost our will. We are just going through the actions and emotions when we're in an active addiction. Our will is now beating us down. So we come to the decision. So let's recap steps 1 and 2. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives become unmanageable because we're not doing what we need to do, and we have lost it. Step 2, we came to believe that their power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Okay. Now we're at step 3. We made a decision to turn our will in our lives over to the care of God as we understood him or her. When we lose will to addiction, you lose identity. And then ego is replaced. And the big book tells us that that's not a good thing. It's helping us cope and helping us get through, but the ego is not what we want to follow. So the question I want you to think about now is, who am I really? Who am I? What do I want to become? How do I want to impact others? Who am I? I'm on step 1 and 2. Every single facility in the world just does 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and we teach steps, and that's okay. And they submit it to the boards of the states and say, this is what we've done. But what we're going to do here on this podcast is we're not just going to do step 1, 2, and 3. We are going to go through all of them. I hope you understand that. We're going to find out who we are as a person, as a being, as someone that's going to eventually have an impact on the community. You're right. You're listening now and thinking, I could be trying to detox. I'm day 15. I have this going on. I have that going on. It's okay. Just bear with us. I Am Jason Hopkins podcast is going to help you through this process. We are going to follow the steps, and I'm going to explain it so you actually understand it and not just go to the meeting, get some coffee, get warm, and listen to a bunch of other people talk. Not going after that and fighting that. I'm just saying that sometimes those meetings can be very, not accommodating to your needs. So it's a very tough question, friends. This is something we have to address daily, just like our addiction. And we have to understand where we're at and where we are depending on the progress with recovery to answer, who am I? Because unfortunately, you don't know who you are. And now is the time to make that decision. We've done step 1 and step 2, and now we've made the decision. The big book says being convinced. What does that mean? Being convinced. You must be convinced that you have the allergy, the mental obsession, and that only God can fix it if you seek Him. Those are big words. Only God. I don't have a God. So what do I do? A higher power. Only something higher than you can help you through this progress. But you must be convinced. The allergy that they talk about is that I can't be like normal people and have 1 or 2 shots and that's my night and I'm cool and I'm going to have fun and drive home or get a ride home or whatnot. Please do not drink and drive. I'm not saying that. But the thing with us and having the allergy to all drugs is that we don't stop. We never stop. It's no different than, I go out and I go hiking and then I get poison ivy and I have to treat that and suffer for the next couple days. Same thing, except our society, friends, people, we just think it's kind of funny sometimes. Oh my God, I had this much and I had a hangover and I was puking all night. Ha 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 ha. It's no different. You have and you are allergic to any type of drug that makes you go back and back and back again. And that's what we need to, that's step 1. You're convinced that you're powerless. And then there's also the piece about the mental obsession. That is something that we have control over and we don't want to think that we do not. The problem is with addiction, we do not have control over the mental obsession like a normal /person. It's on our minds. It's what we think about nonstop. It is the mental obsession. So when we go into step 3, we have to be convinced. You cannot move forward if you're not convinced. And the 1 and 2, the conclusion should be, I have the allergy and I have the obsession, and that God could fix it if you seek Him. The original manuscript on how it works is, if you are not convinced of these vital issues, you ought to reread the book to this point or else throw it away. Meaning, you can't go on to the other steps. You cannot move to step 4 if you do not believe step 1 and 2 or 3. The first requirement is that we are convinced that any life that I run is ran on self-will. And if it's ran on self-will, it cannot be success. This goes back to the ego. If I assume that I am making all these decisions and all these things that I'm doing, it cannot happen. Because I'm trying to be what the book calls an actor. And the problem is, when we're in addiction, we are the actor, we are the director, we are the owner, we are everything in what would be called Jason Hopkins' life. Or fill in your name. And that's the issue. We are not any of that. And it's such a relief to kind of step back and make that decision and turn my will over. Like, I don't have to fuck with any of this shit anymore. My will has been given over. I am no longer the actor. But being the actor, we want to do so much. We want to come in. We want to run the whole show. We want to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, the rest of the players. In this arrangement is what we think we're controlling. And if we just stay put and just wish and want and not do all those things, the show would be great. The show meaning our life. We have to understand that when you are the actor going through these steps, that actor and ego is telling you, this is bullshit. This is stupid. This doesn't make any sense. And you have to really come to grips of that ego. We must be convinced that us running the show isn't working. I mean, can you all tell me when it's working, when you're in active addiction and your show and your life is actually going okay? And then doing those things is what got us here. Acting and being in charge of ourselves is what got us here. And if only people would get with my program, life would be great. They're all wrong. I'm not wrong. And you have to understand, that is all page 60, by the way, that we are not the actor. We are not winning. We are not... I mean, some of us are homeless in a car. Some of us are trying to get in a detox facility. Some of us are fighting day in life for this type of thing we call sobriety and recovery. And when we're fighting it, we want to assume that, you know what, I got this, I'm in control. And what happens is, this is page 61, is our show, our life, doesn't come off very well. It doesn't treat me right. I try to assert myself. I become more demanding, gracious, as the case may be. Still, it does not fit me. I am not the actor. It's all I'm doing, all you're doing is self-seeking. And unfortunately, when we self-seek and do that type of stuff, we act as the victim. We are not. We are under delusion. That we cannot rest satisfactorily in happiness of this world is not a piece of us. It's evident to us that as we are playing the actor of our lives in addiction, we are not winning. All we're doing is maintaining, folks. That's all we're doing. You get to a point where all you do is maintain. And what do I mean by that for the normal people that are listening to this? Because we have normal people listening to this, because of family members that are in this, we get to a point where we're only chasing the next high, so we do not have the shakes, the withdrawals, the headaches, the nasty things that come with that. Because our body is used to having that in our system. And it's very, very sad. It is something that happens. And we have to understand that we are a family. We are together. And if any point during this, we can reach out and help. There's a big problem too. Page 62. Selfishness and self-centeredness. You know, we think we are the root of our problems. is driven by 100 forms of other things: fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows as they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us without provocation, but we invariably find at some time in the past we have made decisions based on self and self-centeredness, and it put us in a position to hurt those around us. Self and being the actor is is basically this whole thing. A tree cannot grow without roots. The roots fed the tree. We are absolutely driven by fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, self-pity. We agonize others when they retaliate. We blame them when we become hurt. I posted something today that said, if we're putting out toxic vibes, we are getting toxic people. And someone said, I don't agree with this. At some point in some time, that person has been putting out negative vibes, and they're getting that in return. And when we are deep in addiction and we are doing the bullshit that we do, we are getting nothing in return but that same shit. And we like to act and assume that none of these problems are ours, but they are. We have to be rid of the selfishness. We are so selfish within this step, and we have to take a deep look inside that these problems, a lot of them are our faults. And that is what leads us up to step 4. When we get into step 4, we're actually going to outline this. And step 4 is made a searching and fierce moral inventory of ourselves. Very, very difficult. Step 4 is difficult. That is why most facilities stop at step 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And we are going to get to that point where we're going to dive into that shit. And what we need to do, back to the ego and back to all this stuff, we have to quit playing God. That's what this decision is. We are playing God. We are taking everything on our shoulders. We are running everything. We are doing everything. And all these actions, we just think we are God. Not only are you the actor of your own show, you are God. You are the creator of all things that come together. And I'm sorry to tell you that's not the truth. It does not work. And this drama that is unfolding in your life, God needs to be your director. Your higher power, needs to be your director. He is the principal, and we are only just agents in this. He is the Father, and we are the children, plain and simple. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was keystone to the new and triumphant arch with which we pass to freedom. But we have to understand this before we can get to freedom. And what that is please quit playing God. From here on out, God is your director. Your higher power is your director. And what happens when we actually acknowledge this? A huge relief comes. A huge sigh. Because there's so much shit that we've been doing in our life that we don't need to manage. We don't need to put our 2 cents in. We don't need to get on Facebook and comment and bitch and moan. I had someone earlier this week that did just that. It's fine. They called me sloppy. They said this doesn't make sense and blah, blah, blah. To me it does, and I don't need to explain it to people that don't understand it. And then what do? Well, looks like you are not sober anymore. Oh, so because I don't agree with you, now that's what you have because I'm very vocal. That's what's up. Anyway, I'm not going to spend my time on that. She does not need that. Also, looking at her page, all she does is put her opinions everywhere. So I can't let that bring me down. And again, I am not God. I am not playing the director of this whole program. So I can take a deep breath and step back and say, okay, cool. We have to take that position under God, under your higher power, and unremarkable things will start happening. It will be powerful beyond what you think. And many people on this step that I've seen and I've done leads and I have sponsees is that, I don't believe in God, blah, 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 and I will never go to this meeting because it's all God, 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 God. Change the word. You can change your life. Maybe that's what I should put. Like I said, when I went through this, I did not believe in God. My higher power was my grandma for a long, long time. And then I just started seeing tiny little miracles like work out. And to me, that was amazing. It really was. So anyway, page 63. We were now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker, as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me, to do with me thou wilt. Relieve me of bondage and self, that I better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them will bear witness to those I would help. Thy power, thy love, thy way of life. May I do thy will always. We thought before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could at least abandon ourselves utterly to him. And that's a lot, right? You just did 1 and 2. Now we have to do this? Woo. Why not? What else do you have going on in your life to where you cannot do this step? I'm not making you. I'm just saying, change the word of God, put it to something else, because what you are doing with your life right now is not working. And that is the step 3 prayer. It's an open-ended prayer. There's no amen. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But this is the step 3 prayer on page 63. And also from the big book. We found it very desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person such as our wife, best friend, or spiritual advisor. But it's better to meet God, or higher power, alone than one might not be misunderstood. The wording was, of course, quite optional, so long as we expressed the idea, voicing it without reservation. This was only the beginning, though honestly and humbly made, in effect sometimes a very great one, we felt at once. And most of the time, our sponsees take these steps with our sponsor or sponsor family. They don't have the course, but it is pretty convenient for us to understand. You must voice this prayer without reservation. We all felt the effect of doing this prayer, this effect through a self-life. To keep it, you must follow with action. And then you need to go on to read page 63. A decision without action is a fantasy. Three frogs sitting on a log. One frog makes a decision to hop off the log. How many are left on the log? The answer is 3. He made the decision to hop off the log, but did not follow through with action. And that's what comes down to us, folks. The decision not to. Stay stopped. Stay stopped. Reach out. Hit me up on the DMs. Hit me up. Hit someone else up. Hit a stranger up. Talk to someone about your issues. It's not worth it. The stuff is on the streets right now is absolutely funk. We're having meth laced with fentanyl. We're having weed with fentanyl. We're having coke. Everything is being cross-contaminated or diluted down with fentanyl. And now we are giving out these fentanyl, strips to test the accuracy if it is really fentanyl. Well, Okay. I open the manual, and literally it looks like I have to put a box of Legos together that will build a house. There's so many instructions. But bottom line is, what you have to do is crumble your score of fentanyl, dilute it in water, test it, and then see where you're at and then want to use it. How many of you out there that are hooked on fentanyl will do that? No one. No one's going to do that. But we're giving these strips out. So I want to close on the last thought. You have made the decision, or have struggled with the decision, or sent me a message about the decision, or talked to your sponsor about the decision. That is step 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Come on, folks. It's time to step up. What we are doing is not working. Definition of insane is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. I want to end on this quote. I will not be in front of you. I will not be behind you. I will be beside you, my brother, my sisters. This is the I Am Jason Hopkins podcast. This was step 3, brought to you by the Purple Leash Project. Please look into that. Please share. And until next time, come on midnight.